What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, let me be the first to say, welcome to the dorkness. My name is Stevie, and I am obsessed with playing BELLWRIGHT at the moment. And today we are going to be talking about settlers, how to get recruits, and managing those recruits and resources, and then also managing outposts with your new villagers. So we're going to start off by just finding the right recruit. I have an empty tent slot in my third or fourth housing tent here. So we're going to head over to Bradford and talk about how to choose a good recruit for your settlement. Okay, we are here in Bradford, and I have found who I think is going to be our newest recruit, but let's talk about what all these numbers mean and why I'm choosing Jim here to be our newest settler. So to recruit a villager, you have to have a minimum village trust within the village that you're recruiting from, and that number is going to be down here by your mini map. You can see here I have 300 out of the 500 required to level up to the next level. I'm currently an associate in Bradford, so I can only recruit villagers that will accept an associate as like their leader. Some of the higher tier, higher leveled villagers won't move in with you until you're a friend or even the protector. So you have to kind of work your way up in each individual village. And then in addition to needing a specific trust level, you also need enough renown to convince them to move in with you. So Jim here requires us to basically spend 788 renown, and you can see our renown balance is up here in the upper left of the screen by our health and stamina. And I have been I've been kind of grinding quests and farming bandits, so I currently have a very large surplus of renown, but I know that later game I'm going to be spending a lot of it, so I'm kind of saving up my renown as much as possible right now. So spending the 788 on Jim is going to be totally fine. So we've spoken to Jim. He said that he would move in with us. Let's take a look at his stats just to make sure we actually want him now that we know he trusts us and we can afford him. So the reason that I think I'm going to go for Jim is because not only does he have two buffs that would really be helpful for our community. He's a scholar, meaning he has an increased researching level and a researching speed, so he would research things 25% faster. He's also a porter, meaning that even though he moves a little bit slower, he automatically has 2 additional inventory rows. So if I give him a bag, I think he's going to be able to carry so much stuff. And the way I like to structure my villagers, I like to have a handful of villagers that don't really move around the map too much, that stay close for crafting and researching and farming and stuff like that. And then I'll have like more combat heavy villagers that I will designate to be like the delivery people walking between all of my like camps that I might have throughout that specific settlement. So he would be actually a good one to do researching and delivering. So he could be moving items from place to place as well as doing researching for me. So his researching being 5 out of 7 is my biggest reason for wanting to choose him, because I know that I'm getting close to the tier 2 researching stuff, and a lot of that requires researching of 7. So this will give me a nice head start with the tier 2 researching. Now, what the heck do these numbers mean? The first number is their current level in that skill, and then the second number is their maximum level of like ability of that skill. So I said, you know, I'm excited about getting Jim because he can get up to level 7, but he can't exceed level 7. So you have to keep that in mind. If this, like, he's going to be terrible for fighting because he can't level past 1 in strength or agility. So he's definitely going to be someone that I keep in the camp more for crafting and cooking. He's not going to really be someone that I bring with for fights or hunting or anything like that, because his numbers for like weapons is pretty low. But that's how those numbers work. I hope that I explained that right. So we're going to say, yeah, come move in with us. Let's go. And let's get him home. And I'll teach you guys everything that we need to know to properly assimilate a recruit into our settlement. Okay, we are back at camp. It is the next morning, and we need to make sure that Jim is settling in nicely. So first thing you need to do is make sure that your recruit has a place to sleep. They will join your settlement and just like sleep on the ground, but they will have a morale debuff until you give them their own place. So luckily we already had this housing tent open with an extra spot. So Jim and Larkin are going to be roommates for a while. The next thing that you want to do after you make sure they have a place to live is make sure that you give them jobs or priorities. So I'm going to push N to open up my settlement menu and then go over to population. So I can mess with his priorities and mess with this this character's needs and everything right from here without having to go find them. That's like a big tip that I learned a few hours into my gameplay here, is that you actually don't have to like locate your settler. You can do pretty much everything short of like giving them stuff to put in their inventory or gear. You can do everything but that right here from this menu. So if I look at Jim here, I can make sure that I have him set as a guard reservist to make sure that when I need guards or when we get raided, he will be part of the people that gear up and go help me fight. I can also toggle whether he's going to hold ground or flee. I think I'm going to have him flee, and I'm actually not going to have him as a guard reservist, because if you remember when we looked at his attributes, he has a really poor fighting skills. So we're going to have him just be the brains of the operation here. So when I'm looking at his priorities, I definitely want him to be a researcher, and I want him to only do things that are going to keep him close to camp. So even though he's really good at delivering, right now I don't want him doing that. I want to keep him close to camp for all of my tier 2 researching. So I'm going to say I want him to research, I want him to craft, I want him to smelt, I want him to farm, because that's close here. Oh, I definitely want him to cook. I actually probably want him to cook more than I want him to smelt. And we'll keep farming, and then harvesting I'm also going to turn to 0, because those are the things that are going to get him away from the camp, and I want him to stay close to camp at all times. So just basically in numerical order, from 1 being the highest priority to 9 or 0 being the least, you just want to give them a priority of what jobs you want them to do. So we're going to keep his priorities like that. So the other thing that we talked about was their max level ability. So because he can get up to level 7 researching, what I can do, and you can do this for all of your recruits, I'm just going to fill my inventory with all of the extra books I have right now. And you can open your settler menu. Let's go to Jim first. With these books in my inventory, I can have them read these from anywhere. I don't have to go find the recruit and put it in their inventory. I think in a previous video, I said that you had to give it to them for them to read it, but you don't. You can just do this right from here. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll put all of my books in my inventory, and then I will just click through the different recruits that I have, and I will give them abilities or XP based on what I think they need. Except the only ones that it looks like people can read right now are shields and strength. So I'm going to go over to who I know is my fighter, Eliza here. You can see that she has a bunch of high skills when it comes to fighting, agility, and archery. She is an absolute beast when it comes to taking out bandits. So I think I'm going to give her the strength book to read that. And then I think I need to find someone that has really good, like, hand-to-hand combat to give the shields book. Yeah, let's give this to Lubomir. So I think since Jim is going to be our new researcher, I can focus on increasing Lubomir's, like, fighting skills. So I'm going to give him the shields book. He's going to be a really good companion to keep around for that. So the point of this is you can give them books to read without having to find them just right from this page, as long as the books are in your inventory. Okay, I was going to save this for later in the video, but it looks like we have a raid coming. So let's see if we can mobilize our troops. Now, I can either push K on my keyboard to mobilize those that I had set as guard reservists. Now, what would happen if I clicked this mobilize button is they would start patrolling the grounds. I actually don't want to do this right now because I want them to stay close to me. So instead of having them patrol the grounds, I'm going to push N into my population setting, and then I'm just going to 1 by 1 switch them to a companion. Now, once they all get here, I can control these people by pushing E on my keyboard. So what I'm going to do first is make sure that they all have weapons. So I'm going to push E, go up to my weapons rack, and tell them to interact with warehouse. So this will make sure everybody picks a weapon. And I like doing it this way rather than individually giving them a weapon, because I've noticed that they'll gravitate towards the weapon that's better for their skill set. So like Eliza will always have a bow and arrow, and vice versa. You know, they'll have a melee weapon if that's what they're better at. Now you can see a few of them are already hungry, so I'm going to also have them interact with my food chest to make sure everybody grabs some food out of there and eats. And if we give them some time, we should see that they've grabbed some food. Hopefully they're eating it. Hopefully they're eating it. I can tell that they're still hungry because I can see those little forks. You can see the little fork and knife next to their companion like image up at the top right. So one thing I can also do while they're lined up here is I can fill their inventory with some radishes just to make sure that they have food on them. If this radish they've already consumed runs out, they'll have another one ready to go. So I like to also just make sure they have some kind of food in their inventory while they're a companion. And it sounds like the bandits are here. Ooh, I did not mean to let them get so close to camp, but here we are. The other thing that you can do, like if you are meeting the bandits halfway, is push E again to order them to a specific place, and they'll go and charge ahead of you and attack. But looks like we shredded those bandits before they could even get too close. Well, I think that answers some questions then that you guys might have had about how to control your armies once you get them. So now that we're done with this raid, I'm going to push N and just switch all of them back to worker. Easy peasy. I like doing it this way rather than mobilizing them as guards, just because, like I said, they'll stay close to me and I can have better control over where they go and what they're doing.
News from the kingdom.
Now you can also,
There's always something.
The same way that I controlled them to interact with this chest to pick up food, you can also do this with their gear or their armor. So I will typically fill this chest here with all of the armor I want them to change into. I will I don't know how to put this delicately. I will take all of their existing gear, I will strip everybody naked, and then I will order them to interact with this chest. And this basically makes them put all the best gear on immediately. So I like doing it that way. Rather than individually going in and changing all of their outfits, because I can do it pretty much in one fell swoop. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was outposts. So we can, as you can see on my map here, I already have an outpost that is set up with a mining camp, a housing tent, a logging camp, a foraging camp, a stockpile, a trapper's camp, and then I also built them a workbench so that they could create the tools they need to replenish like the axe and the mining pick for these resource camps. Let's actually fast travel over there and take a look at all of everything that we did to set up that outpost, and I'll teach you guys how that works and how to maintain it and how to set it up so that you don't really need to do much to maintain it. Okay, we are here at my copper outpost. I'm gonna push N and click this little arrow up here to switch to my copper outpost. So the way that you create a new settlement or an outpost in this case is you basically you craft a new building, and then from the list of buildings here, if you go all the way to the right, you see this little the BELLWRIGHT symbol. So this is how you would switch settlement. So I could assign it to one of my existing outposts, or I can create a new one. And so what I did here was I put a few buildings down far away from my existing settlement, and I created what I'm calling my copper outpost. I'm calling this my copper outpost because if you can see, it is surrounded by copper ore. So my mining camp here has access to a ton of copper, and that's basically, I'm using this as my source for copper. And eventually later in the game, I'll create one for tin, but right now my existing settlement is like pretty close to some tin ore, so I've just been mining that myself. But eventually you'll have outposts all over the map surrounding specific resources to funnel it all towards your main settlement. And how are we going to get it to automatically funnel resources towards our settlement? Let's push N again, switch to our copper outpost settlement page. So what you can do, let's start with the mining page. So I open the mining camp interface. I have that as priority number 1. And then I'm creating top up requirements. So typically when you put a work order in a camp, it'll say 1 off, and then you select how many you want them to do. If you change this to top up, they will basically always have this active. As long, like right now I have 0 in stock, so they should be, I think they should be working on it. They should be always trying to maintain 5 copper ore and 5 crude stone in stock in this settlement. And you can see I have it set up like that with all of the different camps. So for logs, I have them doing wood and logs every single day. And I think I did like an extra one because I needed some more logs to build stuff at home. So we have you can always add an extra one. If you just need a one-off 5 extra logs, you can always do that. And then, so once they've gathered all these resources and they're in your storage, theoretically this would be filled with resources, but it's winter. We don't have a ton right now. And I don't think they have much food up here, so they're probably not working right now. So I probably need to put some work into this settlement, but theoretically this would be filled with resources. So what I would do then to get those resources to show up at my main settlement on a regular basis would be to go to the deliveries tab. Now, you want to do this backwards to what I thought it was initially. So you would actually go to your main settlement deliveries tab, and you would order items from the copper outpost. So the settlement that you initiate the delivery is where you want the resources to be received. So I want to order 5 logs from the copper outpost every day. And it's okay if you make these numbers really high, because they'll just send what they have available. So I have it at 5 and 10 right now just because I wanted to like manage it and see how it would work. But if they can't complete the order in full, that it won't stop them from sending the resources over. They will send whatever they can. Like you can see, they got 2 pieces of small meat from the trappers camp, so that's what they sent, even though they couldn't send the full 5. So this is a way to keep resources coming from your settlement on a regular basis. And you can do this just once. You can have it set up to do it daily, weekly, whatever works for you. But this way you can kind of like set up your settlements and pretty much forget about them, and they will just generate resources. Now, these deliveries do not require you to have a delivery recruit. You don't have to have a recruit set up for delivering. Those deliveries from this tab happen automatically at midnight in-game time. So you'll notice if you stay up all night, you'll notice you'll get a notification on the left side of your screen at midnight that all of those items have been delivered between the different settlements. So I hope that explains how to manage outposts and how to manage the resources going between the different settlements. If you have any other questions about that, please let me know. If you have any other tips that I might have missed in this video, definitely share them in the comments because there is still so much to learn about this game. I'm on my 3rd playthrough where I've restarted because I feel like I'll get to a certain point and realize, oh my gosh, I've been doing this wrong this whole time. This could be so much more efficient. So right now on my 3rd playthrough, I'm feeling the most confident in this game, but I'm sure there's still so much more to learn. So if you have any tips, like I said, share them below. And again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for the likes, the subscribes, the shares. I appreciate all the support, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.